Hello and welcome back to the Two Furs Boxing Show episode 2. If you're watching on YouTube, this will practically be episode 1 for you, but for those of you that have been following me on Spotify, the podcast that's doing quite well over there now, as well as multiple other audio streaming services, welcome to the show. It's definitely a bit of a work in progress at the moment, but hopefully, you know, this is something that it's basically just the same with everything that I do on Two Furs. I do want to eventually turn it into something a bit better, basically, for lack of a better word. And yeah, I think there's lots of room for improvement, don't get me wrong. Like, it's far from where I really want this show to kind of go. But just kind of wanted to get the ball rolling at least. So really looking forward to it. And I think, you know, it's a great start, really, with sort of like the video format that we're doing here on YouTube, with what's happened over the last weekend. There's really a lot that we can cover. We're going to start off with obviously Denzel Bentley versus Felix Cash. Felix Cash stopping Denzel Bentley in the third round to claim the British title as well as defend his Commonwealth title. Brilliant performance really from Felix. Didn't really see it quite that easy for him, especially in the sort of preview prediction that I did last week. I don't know, I mean, I changed my mind. This is kind of why I avoided betting on the fight as well, is that like I changed my mind throughout the week, because I just kind of got that inkling about halfway through the week that maybe Bentley would you know, have that little bit more momentum, I suppose, to kind of like go in there and close the show against someone like Felix Cash. But then again, like, kind of swayed back to sort of what I've seen of Cash in the past. His victory over Cullen, for example, was absolutely perfect. Was a really good sort of step up and learning fight for him. I can't remember the guy that he fought for the Commonwealth title, or I think it was the Commonwealth title. I don't know, it's an African guy. I've forgotten his name. It'll be on here actually. Who did he fight before Jack Cullen? Was that his name? No, it was Stephen Daniels. Stephen Daniels, who I was thinking of, and then he fought Rashid Abalaji after that and before Jack Cullen. But yeah, so overall, I was just majorly impressed with Felix Cash. You know, Bentley just kind of looked a little bit too unorthodox, which we were expecting, but I just didn't expect it to play that well into Cash's hands. I just think that Bentley wasn't really planting his feet. Well, I didn't get a chance to properly settle and just set his feet. But as well as that, like, he had his hands low, and sort of when both of the fighters were coming together, Cash was obviously getting the better work. Cash was obviously walking forward, but he had that kind of high guard. So where he was kind of like staggering Bentley at times and landing solid shots, he had a solid stance and he had that guard to kind of protect himself from anything that was coming back. And it was pretty much one-way traffic, I think, for Felix Cash. You know, the multiple right hooks at the very end in the third round to end the fight. I think it was just it was a kind of like a breakout performance for Felix Cash. Really, really impressive stuff, and I can't wait to see him out next. In terms of like what could come next, obviously in the post-fight interviews, he was saying that he either wanted, you know, Chris Eubank Jr., Liam Williams. Like, there's plenty of fighters domestically that are above the domestic scene, but obviously still come from Britain. Chris Eubank Jr., I don't know, I mean, I guess we'll have to see how he fares against Marcus Morrison next weekend or this weekend. But Liam Williams, you know what, I would love to see that fight, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. And I think maybe because with Liam Williams showed that, you know, he was up against Andrade, who is quite an experienced world champion, a two-weight world champion that by now. You know, he showed that he wasn't going to win a world title just yet with those sort of guys in the middleweight division, but he's not too far off and he can compete at that level. So I think a fight between, you know, Liam Williams and Felix Cash to decide, you know, who gets the kind of next shot, I think would be ideal. But if Williams lost that fight, that's a really big risky fight, because back-to-back losses, coming up against someone who's just kind of stepped up essentially from British and domestic level. It's a big risk for Liam. I don't know whether he'd take the fight, but yeah, I think a lot of people would love to see that fight. And maybe the winner fights Chris Eubank Jr. We don't know. We'll have to, like I said, we'll have to see how he looks next weekend, or this weekend. I keep saying next weekend because I'm recording this on the Sunday to kind of help myself out, but it'll probably be out on the Monday. Sandor Martin with the unanimous decision over K Prosper. Kind of the fight that everyone was expecting, really. I think I predicted like either a late stoppage or points decision, but it was all just depending on how K Prosper would fare in those sort of last 2 rounds. Watched sort of like bits and bobs of the fight, to be honest with you. So from what I did see, it was just that Prosper was doing too little too late. I saw sort of all over social media and over Twitter that just the strategy wasn't very good. So yeah, I just don't know. I don't really know what Xavier Emilia and K Prosper were really sort of thinking, what the game plan was. Because yeah, Martin was just kind of running away with the fight, and by the time that they decided to sort of like change tactics and, you know, get closer to winning rounds, it was just a little bit too late. Did well to counter against the taller fighter though. K Prosper had the obviously size and reach advantage, but it just kind of showed that there's levels to boxing. You know, you've got someone stepping up from English level all the way to European. You're skipping that domestic scene. So yeah, I think it was the way that the kind of fight that we expected, and it definitely went the way that we thought it would. The right man won, or the bookie's favourite won, I suppose I should say. But yeah, I feel like it's still too soon for world level, I think. So it's kind of difficult because you don't really know. I mean, look, Josh Taylor is going to fight Jose Carlos Ramirez, and then whoever wins that fight, I think Josh Taylor wins that fight. Probably going to unify the titles and move up to welterweight. Maybe fight Terence Crawford or Manny Pacquiao. I think that's probably likely to happen. So then you've got the undisputed titles completely spread out. So Sandor Martin could very well fight for a world title, you know, by the end of this year. And that's quite realistic, really. It just depends how long either, you know, Taylor or Ramirez wants to stay at 140 pounds after they win all 4 belts. My guess is that they would just move on straight away. So could very well fight for a world title. But I do feel like it's too soon with who is currently up there. You've got Taylor, you've got Ramirez, Prograis, Postal is still around. Those are kind of like the main 4 that I can think of. Who's the other guy? Zepeda? Is it Zepeda? I think it is Zepeda, isn't it? The guy that knocked out, that beat Pedraza. I think that's right. So yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, he could fight for a world title, but it's just got to be. There's got to be a good opponent. You know, domestically or not domestically, but fighters that he could fight in the UK. Ihara Davis, Lewis Ritson. I think chance for Lewis Ritson to redeem himself at European level, as well as his last performance against Miguel Vazquez. Yeah, I think, you know, Sandor Martin would get paid well for coming over here, especially when crowds return, to fight Lewis Ritson. Ihara Davis would probably, you know, could sort something similar out, because Ihara Davis has got the MTK Golden Contract win. Like, I can't remember what it is. There's nothing really that's come out in what they won, but it was meant to be a whole sort of like few fight deal with a guaranteed purse limit. So I don't know, maybe not Ihara Davis. Depends if they can sort of get the funds for that fight, but Ritson I think is definitely possible, and I think Ritson would be quite up for taking that fight in the meantime, whilst, you know, Taylor and Ramirez are fighting. But we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I don't really know what can come next for Sandor Martin. It's going to be an interesting year to see what path they take him on, and whether they kind of make that jump next to world level or just kind of keep plodding along around European level until it's a safer territory, I suppose is what we'll go with. Navarrete Diaz as well. Mexico versus Puerto Rico. Great performance from Emmanuel Navarrete, the WBO world champion. Did well to defend his belts. And yeah, just kind of, I don't want to keep saying one-way traffic, but what did I write down? Just walked through him. Yeah, just walked through Diaz, and, you know, brave as hell, Christopher Diaz, to just kind of keep coming forward and keep throwing shots and, you know, get knocked down and get back up. It was great, but I just felt the stoppage could have come a little bit too sooner, leaving it to the 12th round. Kind of just out on his feet. He was tired. He was just exhausted more than tired. So I don't really know. It's just too brave for his own goods. But yeah, fantastic from Navarrete. Again, the sort of like counter punching, the fast hands that he has. Going to be an interesting time for him at featherweight. I did see something on the timeline about him versus Gary Russell Jr. But personally, I'd rather see him against Can Xu. I think that fight just, you know, moulds. They were kind of looking at that fight for Josh Warrington. And I think, you know, similar kind of fight would be between Navarrete and... who was I talking about? Between Navarrete and Can Xu. Yeah, I think it would be a really good high action fight. A lot of punches thrown in there for sure. And yeah, I'd love to see that. I think that should be next for him. Wouldn't say no to Gary Russell Jr. I just think it's a bit difficult to make. Gary Russell Jr. only fights once a year, and you know, he wants quite a decent amount of money for what he was going to fight Josh Warrington for. So I don't know. That's going to be interesting. Maybe he fights Mauricio Lara if they don't manage to get the rematch with Warrington sorted. But I imagine they would. But you know, an all Mexican bout, a guy who's, you know, just kind of shocked the world, taking on the WBO world champion. That would be a great fight. You know, great fight for sort of Mexican Independence Day in September. So yeah, that would be great. Earlier on in the week, Lucas Brown. I don't want to say stunning because it was quite close with the bookies, but I think a lot of people were shocked by how it happened. And don't get me wrong, like, Paul Gallen had not fought anyone anywhere near the caliber of Lucas Brown before, but you just knew that Lucas Brown was like on his way, has been on his way out, you know, since the whole sort of Dillian Whyte fight, really. Like, you saw how he turned up for that fight, didn't look like he trained and just didn't take any shots well. Dave Allen fight, he was a little bit better. And then you had the Sokolowski fight just before that, where he was dropped, he was hurt, and had to get up and edge Sokolowski out on points. More on Sokolowski later as well, actually. I will give that an honourable mention. So yeah, I think it was just knocked him out in the first round. You know, Brown's just shot. He's been in the game too long now, and he needs to retire. I think he is retiring. I did see that. I think whether that was confirmed or not, because we don't get any rights to any shows over here for some reason. The only time that we really get it is when ESPN do it for Navarrete Diaz, where you have to pay like £9.99. So, you know, pay-per-view it was. But, you know, Gallen by far gets his career best win by a mile, by a country mile. Was fighting guys with losing records. I don't think he fought a guy with a winning record, did he? So, I don't know. I don't really know what comes next, because from what I understand from Ebony Bridges coming over here is that if fighters from Australia, probably New Zealand as well, I don't know what Joseph Parker's doing, but if they come out of their country, they can't travel back for some reason, whatever that may be, because I know from my own sort of dropping my rings as per usual, wouldn't be first time recording if I didn't do that. What was I saying? Yeah, so he's probably going to have to fight someone domestically, and if he's fighting domestically, the only other guy that he really could get away with fighting... Oh, what was that? Or was he New Zealand? I don't know, maybe we'll come back to that. But Dempsey McKean, won't lie to you, I haven't seen him fight, didn't see Paul Callum fight before the Lucas Brown fight, so not really too sure what to expect. Like, maybe you could come over here and, you know, get a few quid. You know, I probably would if I was in his position, be capitalising on that Lucas Brown fight, or Lucas Brown win, and trying to get as much money as possible, you know. It's not wise to kind of like stay sticking around in this game for too long. So yeah, I think he should capitalise on it. He should get on the phone to Eddie or Frank or, you know, somebody. David Adelaide. That would be good. That would be good. I'd like that. And that kind of works quite well, because I did want to touch on David Adelaide versus Sokolowski, because look, I mean, it was a step-up fight for David Adelaide, and he was meant to come through it. Didn't do that convincingly in my eyes at all. I thought Sokolowski won the fight. What can you really do? It's the way that boxing is. It's the way it's been for a very long time. And I don't know, I guess you kind of... Look, like, this is the thing that I was trying to like put out on Twitter, but I didn't really know quite how to word it, so bear with me. So, like, a fight as zero is so important nowadays, and, you know, as much as we as fans kind of argue about it, and, you know, promoters will say like, oh, like, you know, they need an acid test at some point. Like, it just goes to show that, like, it will get protected by any means necessary, because they need it. They need it to promote a fight, and it's really sad, like, because David Adelaide can't keep going through his entire career thinking, oh, it's okay, like, the judges are in the back pocket, I'm going to win this fight. He can't think in the back of his mind, like, it's okay, like, I'm the home fighter, I'm going to win. So yeah, it was something that just upset me, and I hated just seeing everyone obviously talk about it on Twitter, because everyone had the same look on the fight. Sokolowski won the fight. There was no doubt about it, I'm pretty sure. I didn't see anyone picking Adelaide, and even still, I don't understand how you would pick Adelaide to win that fight. So yeah, that was kind of like the boxing over the last weekend. Good to see Callum Johnson out here as well. Great fighter, just fucking great. Kill or be killed, you know. I think it was one of the tweets that I saw earlier today. Very much looking forward to see him out in action. Like to see him against Lyndon Arthur or Anthony Yard, makes sense. Maybe, you know, 1 or 2 more fights, and then we see that fighter later this year. But yeah, so we'll come on to a little bit of the news that's been dropped in the last couple of days. I've only really decided to kind of do this as a video format, whereas I usually kind of just do the fights at the weekend and then do the next weekend's fights. So I've only got a couple of topics. I think the main one obviously is, you know, Eddie Hearn with DAZN, you know, kind of dropping Sky Sports and, you know, going sort of like full-time with DAZN in the UK, full-time. And the only ones that aren't is Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte. And to be honest, look, I'm happy about this. I'm so happy about this. I kind of moved from... I've never had a Sky Sports subscription, because it's just so expensive. Like, BT Sport I can kind of deal with, even though you don't get as many boxing shows on BT Sport as you do Sky Sports. You know, it's 20 quid. It's 20 quid a month, and I can justify paying 20 quid a month to watch maybe 1 or 2 shows. You know, that's why I buy the pay-per-views on Fight TV for ESPN shows. But Sky Sports is like 35 quid. Like, I don't have £35 a month to like spend on boxing. Are you joking? I'd rather just stream it. What I did have for a very long time, and it's only recently that it's kind of like expired, was the Sky Sports mobile app, which like came included with Vodafone. So I've had that for like 2 to 3 years. And then they've stopped doing it for some reason. I guess because they've got Sky Go, which is probably what I will look into, but gonna give it a bit of time, because obviously I want to see, you know, what kind of shows end up on there now. if Eddie Hearn's going all in with DAZN. But yeah, it's just another expensive subscription that I don't have to bother with at the moment, so it's perfect. Where does Sky Sports go from here? I don't really know. I'm trying to think who would pick them up. Maybe Steffi. Maybe they'll get some of the small hall shows. Maybe Hennessy. They maybe could offer him a small deal. But the problem is that the small hall shows aren't exactly regular with sort of, you know, TV networks and things like that. Don't really know how it's dealt with. But Hennessy, I think, you know, it looks like an alright show with Egerton Molina. So I guess we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I just really don't know. I don't know who can kind of go there. I mean, Frank's not going to go back to work with Sky Sports for sure. But yeah, I just think DAZN at the current price, it's going to be a real driving force in the UK. And the fact that every fight from Matchroom will now be on there just bodes well for the future, you know. Ryan Garcia pulled out of his fight with Javier Fortuna. That's in like June or July, I think, or something like that. It's just a weird announcement. I really didn't understand it, and I just don't really know what to make of it. It's just very mysterious. Didn't give too much away. Said that it needed to focus on being a better version of himself. Needed to get stronger. A lot of jokes on the timeline about that he's gotten a girl pregnant and things like that. But no, like, hope he's okay. Like, it was just very weird. And you know, Fortuna, just one of the unluckiest guys in the sport. My God. You know, that's what Haney, who was meant to fight. He was meant to fight Luke Campbell. He got scheduled to fight Linares, and then he got scheduled to fight Ryan Garcia. All of them have just, you know, gone to bits in the last 18 months. It's just sad, man. It's really really depressing to kind of see it happen to that guy when he's, you know, been guaranteed a world title shot, eliminator, blah blah blah. I don't know what happens next for Javier Fortuna, whether that fight gets rescheduled or what. But Lomachenko's going to be back. He's going to be back on June, is that 26th? June the 26th. And he faces Nakatani. What is his first name? Masayoshi Nakatani. The guy that gave Teofimo Lopez a hell of a fight, and well, a hell of load of problems, a couple of years back. And then he recently stopped Felix Verdejo. So, you know, I think I remember seeing from that last fight that it's time to start considering Nakatani as a genuine threat to the division. You know, tricky fighter to beat. And it's going to be interesting to see him against Lomachenko, because what Lomachenko are we going to see? Are we going to see the Lomachenko of old? You know, the guy who had no problem with most opponents. You know, Linares was probably his biggest challenge before the Teofimo Lopez fight. But he still stopped him, you know, still managed to put him down and hurt the bigger guy. Or are we going to see, you know, was the Lopez performance basically, was it just a one-off? Was it just, okay, I changed my tactics because I'm going in there with like the bigger guy and a heavy puncher, you know, but was it just a one-off, or we could see the Lomachenko of old? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how he performs in that fight, but I would, you know, probably imagine that Lomachenko has come back. The Lopez, from my point of view, looked like an off performance from him, the way that he just gave the 6 rounds away and then started fighting in the later rounds properly. Yeah, I think we'll see him at full force on June 26th. Right, we'll come on to this weekend's fights. Start off with Chisora-Parker, because brilliant fight. Been waiting for this fight for ages, and I'm gonna be excited because I'm actually gonna be off this weekend, so I can actually watch it. So it's my birthday weekend, so I'm not too sure when episode 3 will really be coming out, but we'll try and do it as soon as possible, as soon as, you know, I can. So my birthday actually falls on a Monday, so I'm gonna meet up with some friends, watch the boxing. And yeah, it finally goes ahead on May 1st. Both fighters with new trainers. That was the massive talking about point. Derek Chisora teaming up with Buddy McGirt, brilliant move. And then you've got Joseph Parker teaming up with Andy Lee, which again is a brilliant move. Joseph Parker looked like he needed to change things up in his last fight against Junior Farr. And Derek Chisora, I think, and Buddy McGirt, you know, it's perfect because Derek Chisora is a brawler. And Buddy McGirt will really sort of bring the best qualities of Chisora out, especially at this latter stage of his career. You know, he kind of needs that. So yeah, I would imagine it would be quite a good fight, but I don't know how, this is the thing, like when it's both new trainers, I don't know how much time they've had to gel. I'd imagine that, actually I don't know who would have gelled better, because it depends what tactics Andy Lee, who is fantastic at what he does, had a great career himself and is, you know, proven to be a very decent trainer. I just don't know what their tactics are going to be, but I think it will be to kind of back Chisora off. Like the thing is, when you're fighting Derek Chisora, you've got so much to look at because he's been around since like, oh, mate, I don't know, he's like 40 odd, isn't he? He's fought Tyson Fury 3 times, David Haye back in his heyday. Like, I don't know, there's so much to look at Chisora, so I'd imagine that Parker's gonna find a way to kind of nullify it whilst keeping it interesting. You know, they've been talking about sort of bringing the dog out of Joseph Parker, and I don't think that's the tactic that you want to go in with Derek Chisora, because it's just going to be an early night, and it's too risky against someone like Chisora. The power is always the last thing to go. I don't care how old he is, but the punch resistance of Chisora has been waning over the past, like, year or so. Looked a bit buzzed against Spilka. David Price, I don't think really gave him too many problems. Again, like, these are the performances that he still looked like he got through him quite easily. But then you think of that Dillian Whyte knockout in the rematch, and you kind of wonder how much is really there in terms of punch resistance. So I think Parker will get to him. I think I don't know if he's got the punching power to really hurt him. But I think he will just get to him at times, you know, in and out. I think that's the way that Andy Lee will kind of want to see this fight. You can't just like go, you know, you can't just go straight into sort of like 5th or 6th gear and just fight Chisora and just go in there for a brawl, because it's just not going to work in your favour. You know, he's been doing it for years, like I've said, it's just not going to work. So I think Parker on points, I think that's probably the safe bet for this weekend or next weekend. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. Don't get me wrong, like, I think the undercard, it's seen some criticism and I can kind of understand why. But screw it, you know. We're just getting so used to paying for pay-per-views now, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference for me. The other fight that's on this weekend, Mauricio Mifulani versus Sonny Edwards. Cannot wait for that. That really surprised me. I can't remember if it was because I didn't know about the world title. I don't know. I guess I just didn't see it coming off. And this is the thing. Like, what I was going to talk about is that we've been wanting to see Sonny Edwards in a sort of like against world level opposition for sort of like the last year to 18 months. Like, he's shown that he's been ready for it because he's beaten everyone with relative ease. But it is a tricky one to pick, because do you pick the experienced world champion or do you pick the younger, fresher fighter who, you know, has just had no problems really whatsoever? You know, got dropped in the Marcel Braithwaite fight, but from what I remember speaking to Sonny, or somebody was speaking to Sonny, you know, training wasn't perfect, and you know, I think Sonny has improved his whole sort of living the life of an athlete in recent times, and I reckon he's trained his absolute nuts off for this fight. Like, he's had a kid recently, but I think apart from that, you know, he would have just given it everything, and I think he's going to give it everything because he knows that Mauricio Mifulani, he's a seriously underrated fighter. you know, Mifulani, he's the favourite for a reason. You know, he's the experienced world champion, been champion a very long time, has wins over like Casemiro and Zolani Tete. I think they were like back-to-back stoppage wins. So you know that he can punch as well. Going to be the better puncher out of the two. I think he's slightly the bigger man against Sonny Edwards. But yeah, I think Sonny can do it. I think he might just edge it on the cards. And the reason that I say that is just that I think the timing for Sonny Edwards to, you know, be a world champion and step up and face the guys at world level, I think the timing has been right there for him for a good while. And it's whether he's catching Mifulani at the right time. You know, he's 38 years old, had a long career, been around the blocks. You know, maybe that's just why they've taken the fight. Frank is usually quite good when it comes to sort of like world title fights. You know, you can't obviously get all of them right, but a couple of them he's usually able to pick them at the right times and build the fighters through the system like that. And yeah, I think Sonny can do it. I think you know, Mariti is one hell of an underrated fighter, but yeah, I just think that timing's right for Sonny. I just think the timing is just so well. The time is just, yeah, I think the timing's right for him. I feel like a lot of people are expecting it to be a close fight. That's exactly what I'm expecting. But yeah, I just think Sonny would just edge it out on the cards. And yeah, it's just going to be one hell of an arse, don't get me wrong. I'm just favouring the slight underdog in Sonny Edwards here. And yeah, I think he can do it. But it's like I said, it's going to be one hell of an ask. And I can't wait. I really hope he does it. Really hope he goes and does it. Special shout out to Williamson Smith on that undercard as well. Brilliant sort of British title eliminator, domestic fight. I think Kieran Smith probably has that in the bag. Been in the gym sort of the entire time through COVID, even though he hasn't had a fight. Stayed ready. Spoke to him last week, maybe the week before. And yeah, like I think just again the timing is right for that. I mean, he's been ready for a while. He's been chomping at the bit for an opportunity like this, so he's gonna take it with both hands and go in there and, you know, absolutely smash it. That's pretty much the way I see it. I don't know what Troy Williamson can really do, especially going off of his last performance against Harry Scarf, who, you know, I felt won the fight. So yeah, just a brilliant fight for Kieran Smith, and I can't wait. I really think that'll be his coming out party. I really do. And, you know, fight the winner of Fowler Cheeseman or Cheeseman Fowler. Probably likely. I think it'll be good. Last fight that we've got to talk about is Andy Ruiz versus Chris Arreola. Yeah, I can't say that I don't know why. I can't say that the excitement for this fight has been high. But it's going to be a good fight, no doubt. I think you can expect a very high action sort of fight. Both guys got really fast hands, carry a lot of power as we've seen in the past. But I think, you know, you just see the kind of better work from Andy Ruiz. The takeaway point from this fight is that Ruiz has teamed up with Eddie Reynoso. Eddie Reynoso is a fantastic coach, one of the best in the business. And yeah, I think that's just really going to work. He's got Ruiz in proper good shape. Not like the last time we saw Ruiz out in the ring against Anthony Joshua, the rematch. So yeah, I think Ruiz will probably stop Arreola late on. And I think it would just be another kind of like demonstration of how good Eddie Reynoso is as a coach. This is what he does. Yeah, I think, you know, it's not really going to be a statement, but it'll be good to see Ruiz get back in the ring and, you know, kind of shine, I suppose. It's going to be good. I think he'll, you know, outclass Arreola in most areas. So yeah, but I'll look forward to it. It should be okay. Look, it's going to be a good fight. Don't get me wrong. I just, you know, Ruiz has been out of the ring for a long time. You kind of forgotten, you know, that Anthony Joshua win was like coming on 2 years ago, so I don't know. But I'd love to see Ruiz against Parker if both of them two come through their next fights. Because yeah, I enjoyed the first one. I think it would be a good fight. So yeah. Right, that is everything. I've got to get going. I'm going to go down the pub. So thank you very much for watching or listening on Spotify. Really appreciate all the growth on Spotify recently as well. I know a lot of people have been listening and tuning in over there, so thank you very much for that. It's heavily appreciated, believe me. I do, sometimes I really don't feel like I deserve it, but yeah, thank you very much for watching, for listening. If you're on YouTube, please be sure to leave a like, drop me something down in the comments below. I like reading things, and subscribe obviously if you're new. We'll be back here next week. I don't know when. You know, Monday's usually when I've been kind of doing these, so maybe I'll do it on the Sunday and upload it on Monday. But yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you next week.